Yeah, I've got you. Yeah.
I think we are on, Simon. Thank you very much, Simon, for coming on. It's very kind of you. I know it's 8 o'clock your time. It's 12. 6 p.m. Sorry, 18 o'clock. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. And it's 12 noon here in England. So where are you, Simon?
I'm in Da Nang, which is in the center of Vietnam, on the coast, right in the middle of Vietnam. Beautiful beach, beautiful city. Completely free now of COVID-19.
I've only been there once, but it's a very interesting country. I'd love to go back. But what are you doing there? Are you working or?
At the moment, I'm teaching English.
Right.
I do a lot of photography. Actually, I've got a job interview on Tuesday for not a new post, a completely different direction.
Okay, interesting. Okay, you'll have to keep us informed.
I will.
So it's the 12th of June now, isn't it? How long have you been in Vietnam for, Simon?
6 years.
Oh, wow. Right. So you speak the local language, understand the local?
Not really, no. Vietnam is really difficult because it's phonetic language. It's got 7 vowel sounds, and my memory can't deal with it.
Right. So you teach English as a foreign language?
I picked up some, like I can deal with the market and things, but if I get involved in the conversation, pretty soon I'm lost.
But do you feel that you've got quite a good feel of what's going on in the country?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, looking from the outside, it appears that the way the Vietnamese have managed the COVID outbreak has been exemplary. I mean, it just seems remarkably good. Is that what you're picking up on the ground? Is that consistent with what you're seeing?
Yeah, I think so. I think most reports have presented the idea that the government was really proactive right from the start. They've been very aggressive with their quarantine. The whole campaign was named after the famous Tet Offensive, so it was called the Tet Offensive of 2020. So
that'll ring some bells in the United States and around the world. I'm sure that term Tet Offensive.
Well, it has a very mixed, So
indeed, yeah.
Mixed memories, yes. With that. But it was very successful. They had a very successful piece of music that was quite. I mean, it was heard in America, and it was about singing, about washing hands, and what you need to do. And singing's very, very much a strong part of Vietnamese culture. So if my neighbours invite me, we'll always end up singing together, singing something, and they always want me to sing a song. So it's very much central to Vietnamese community.
I'd be no good there at all. I can't sing. Can't sing a note.
It doesn't matter. The thing is, you just
enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which took me a while to get used to. So what happened here? Let's think. I'll tell a story about some.
Please.
So on the 1st of January this year, there's a new train service between Hanoi and Beijing. So you could get on the train in Beijing and go all the way up to get on the train in Hanoi and go all the way up to Beijing. It'd take 2 or 3 days. By the 31st, that service had stopped. The whole of the borders, all the borders.
31st of January.
That's right, 31st of January. Any crossings on the border had just been stopped. The borders were shut down. It took a bit while. It took another week, I think, for the international scene to sort itself out. I mean, in international flying, the first to be curtailed were flights from infected areas of China, and then gradually, when things started to happen in Europe, they closed all those flights, international flights as well.
So these were closed by February, early February.
Really early February. Let me just confirm my dates. What's happening? Right. Right, yes. So they declared the epidemic in the 1st of February.
Wow.
By the 1st of April, which is quite a bit later, all passenger flights on all airlines were suspended, so nothing inbound. They've had a few repatriation flights, and actually they have probably the international flights have brought the most cases into the country.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's been 273 cases. Each case was given a unique number, and every day on the news, you were informed about what state they were in. The most famous being case number 91, who was an English pilot working for Vietnam Air.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, yeah.
He was in coma till quite recently, and they were deliberating about whether to do a full lung transplant, and they said basically, no, we're not going to take that risk. And he seems to have recovered quite well. Everyone else, let's see, in Da Nang we had 6 cases where I live. What happened was some tourists were on tour. They came from Italy. Now that was early March, and they were discovered, and some people who'd been in contact with them were tested as well. They were said we were ill, and they were tested as being positive. The whole of the area where they were staying was sealed off, and they were in quarantine.
No one in, no one out, just sealed the whole place.
That's right, and that happened to the whole of Da Nang actually while that was going on. To leave the city, I mean, there were police blocks. They were checking your temperature coming in and out of the city, on all the roads in and out of the city, and that was done across the north quite a lot, because they had there was a couple of cases in the north, and also
there was some talk about cases fairly on in some rural villages in the north near the Chinese border, wasn't there?
That's right, and basically there was a military operation just to seal the whole area off and stop people, to isolate it. So
yes.
Isolate, track everyone who was in contact with anyone, and then quarantine.
The British government have just worked out in the last week or two that we need to trace the contacts.
Amazingly, yes.
It's just unbelievable, isn't it? And yet Vietnam were doing this from the get-go.
Right off the bat, yes.
It's very impressive. So as far as you know, there's been 273 cases in Vietnam.
That's right, no deaths.
I mean, it's just a country of what? 70, 80 million people?
About 98.
98 million people. It's just...
Yeah. It is.
I mean, so it's a relatively crowded country, Vietnam. So the potential for spread was just immense, wasn't it? But they acted hard, they acted early, they acted fast, and they just completely truncated the whole pandemic.
Exactly. I think they learnt a lot from the SARS outbreak, which was 2004, because they had
2003. Yeah.
They had 10,000 cases then. And,
did they? Right.
So they thought, well, I think they realised it was something that had to be dealt with quite seriously, which they did.
Mm-hmm. So generally, the public health awareness in Vietnam is fairly good, and the infrastructure to operationalise public health measures is there. It's available. It's in reserve. It's ready to go.
Exactly. Yes.
It's almost like an organised country, isn't it? I mean,
it is.
So I don't mean to be sarcastic and cynical.
It is.
It's really difficult sometimes. I mean, we've made such a pig's ear of it in other countries. It's.
I think in comparison, the parts of Asia where I am, like Taiwan, South Korea, maybe.
Yep.
I'm not sure about Laos, Cambodia, they've got quite relatively low numbers. They
have. I think we're still waiting for information from Laos and Cambodia, but certainly Thailand seems to have done very well. Taiwan, of course, South Korea, of course. It's impressive. Now, the people in Vietnam, have they been happy to comply with these measures, or have they been making a fuss like some other countries have been making a fuss about it?
Well, there's no fuss about mask wearing, because mask wearing is part of Asian culture.
I think that's a biggie. I really do.
When the lockdown occurred, which would be probably early March, I think, or early February, no, it was that's what you do. And there was you just comply. because
it's just the default position. Of course you would wear a mask. Why would you? You wouldn't think of going out without a mask.
And people didn't go out, you know. The beaches were closed. There was no one on the beaches. The shops just closed down really quickly. It's like a ghost town.
But the point is, because they acted so early, they only had to, and so decisively, they only had to act for a very short period of time.
Well, we had a lockdown for, let's see, we lifted the lockdown on, oh my God, late February. So I was out of, well, I wasn't working from the Tet holiday, which is end of January, all the way up until early May. So the schools were more or less closed all that time.
Yeah, but from the end of February, the lockdown started to be eased from then.
No, it was eased at the end of April.
Oh, the end of April. Sorry, I've got you right. So, but of course, we've still got so many restrictions now here in the UK and all over.
Oh, I can't work out what's going on in the UK.
I can't either, if it's any consolation.
It's just so confusing.
Yeah. I mean, this decisive early action is so impressive, and it's obviously worked. It's just spectacular. Yeah. So tell us about the schools, Simon. What happened with the schools there? Do you actually work in a school?
I work in a private school, so there was the same regulations for private schools as for the public schools. So basically, all the children were at home for 2 months. Right. Quite a few of them, I think there was a lot of organisation, around doing online learning. During the period of isolation and lockdown, we lost a cable that connects us with up to Japan, underwater cable for the internet. So the internet slowed down horrendously. So it was technically quite difficult to do schooling online. So
that was bad timing, wasn't it?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So a lot of children were doing, was sent homework and stuff like that. Everyone was at home. Yeah.
How did people manage for food and things? Was the government subsidies
right.
or?
No, the only shopping you could do was for essential supplies, food and pharmacy. If you're exceptionally poor, then you could get free masks. This is another interesting thing. And you could get, there was a rice bank set up. So
right.
You could free rice. Also,
free rice for people that needed it.
Okay, if you were diagnosed as positive, then you were quarantined for free. So there was no healthcare costs.
Was it in a centralised facility, or were you quarantined at home?
Quarantined in a centralised facility.
So it was controlled, regulated, monitored. Yeah. That's impressive.
One Vietnamese woman, I think in her early 20s, she went to Italy and then France. She was touring. She came back. She was in quarantine and she escaped to meet her boyfriend. And my friends were aghast that anyone could actually do that. So they were just horrified. My Vietnamese friends, they couldn't understand why anyone would put everyone else at risk.
So it's a fairly sort of communal culture. I was talking to someone in Taiwan, and they said that people are very community minded.
Exactly. Yes.
It's the same in Vietnam, is it?
Exactly. Yeah. Same. Exactly. Yeah. So, and the government was able to hook into that, and it was very successful. No, when I watch what was happened in the Free West, I'll call it the Free West.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah. Where are you from, Simon?
I suppose London. Although I was born in Manchester.
So do you think that the culture in London is less community minded and less corporate than it is in Vietnam?
That's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the answer. Yes. So really, we've got so much to learn from the community spirit in these Asian cultures, and
exactly, yeah.
If ever a country's pulled itself up by its own bootstraps, it's Vietnam, isn't it?
Yes.
Just so admire the hard work of the people there and the spirit of the people there.
And Yes, they've gone through some sort of tremendous hardships to get where they are at the moment. And what the famous saying of the Vietnamese is they can sit, which means they can wait. They'll sit and wait. There's no rush.
Yeah. But it's happening. So what are conditions like there now? What's your degree of lockdown now, Simon? Are you fairly free to go about you're back at work?
I'm back. I've been back at work for 3 weeks now.
Yep. Full classes?
Initially they were a bit low, but they've picked up. It'd be interesting to see what happens when they try and sort out international travel.
Yes.
What will happen then?
So as of now, there's no international flights going in or out.
The only international flights are international freight. There are some flights internally. There are trains operating again internally. I think they're talking about opening flights up to Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea. I'm not sure what's happening.
Yeah, so almost like a sort of a bubble of countries, really, where there's obviously it'd be safe to fly to New Zealand, for example.
Exactly, and they talk about the tourist bubble and how they're going to deal with that, because obviously they're going to have to test.
Yeah, and tourism's important in Vietnam, is it?
It's quite a high percentage of the GDP, yes.
Yeah.
For Da Nang, it's very important because it's a tourist city, and the local spot of Hoi An is just tourist based. Apparently, it's been beautiful to visit because it's so quiet.
Been really quiet, yeah.
But my Vietnamese friends aren't impressed with that.
No, they need the income, don't they, of course.
Supposedly, the Vietnamese developed a 1-hour test.
Wow.
I was talking to one of my students yesterday, and he said, "Oh, it's not very good." And I said, "What do you mean it's not very good?" Oh, he said it's only 99.9%.
Yeah.
And I thought,
so 1 in 1,000 could give a false negative.
It's not going to work on, which I don't. It's pretty impressive. But that sort of.
I think it's impressive. Was it made in country? Do you know? Is it a domestic production?
Domestic production.
Right. So Vietnam has got a highly sophisticated biotechnology sector.
I guess so. Yeah. To come up with something.
Must have. Yeah.
I mean, the word. I remember you talking about the breathalyzer thing in Africa.
Yeah, that's never seemed to have come to fruition, unfortunately. I'm still looking for news on that.
Mm. But here, I mean, that's been part of their whole tactic of the isolation. So tests, and then there's the three I's. Are they 3 I's or 3 T's? Test, track.
Three T's.
3 T's. There we go.
Test, track, trace.
Trace. All right. And this
you test people first of all, then you trace their contacts and you track their contacts and you quarantine them. Absolutely.
Right.
And that was done in a centralized facility in Vietnam, which is excellent.
Okay, yeah.
And no deaths is seriously impressive, because this case 91 was obviously very, very ill, wasn't he?
Yeah, very.
And it must have taken quite sophisticated medicine to keep him alive. It's. I
mean, I have got sophisticated hospitals here. I've got a lot of new hospitals as well. Well, I mean, the new hospitals. I've stayed in one, and it was okay. It's pretty rudimentary, but the medical care was very good. But the medical facilities were okay. They had some very They had a big CAT scan, where I went.
Right. Yeah.
A military hospital, so you'd sort of expect.
But there is still a lot of very poor people in Vietnam. The incomes can be very low, and there is a lot. There's no debating. There's a lot of struggling in urban and rural areas, and
exactly, yeah. So we're quite privileged in Da Nang and the bigger cities. So for medical care,
yeah. So, what's your outlook for the next few weeks and months then, Simon? Are you fairly optimistic about the country?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm here. I'm planning on doing a bit more touring of the country. When I talk to my friends in Japan, because I'd like to go back to Tokyo and visit Japan, they just say, "No, forget it. Next year, it's not going to happen this year."
Not a good time, yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't want to go somewhere and find out that actually I'm asymptomatic because I'll be in quarantine for 2 weeks.
Yes.
And
yes, of course.
If I go somewhere like Japan, it'd be very expensive.
Oh, Vietnam. I've only been to Vietnam once, but you just can't believe how inexpensive things are. You know, you can eat for like 50 cents or something. It was just incredible. Yeah. So you would be free to travel around within the country?
Yeah, that's right. I think I'm not sure. I mean, I think I might have to get a stamp from my local. It's not police. I don't know what they call it, civil police.
Yeah.
To say that I had been that I was clean.
Yeah. But that makes sense. And basically, it's a COVID-free country. It's
exactly, yeah.
It's impressive.
Still, as a foreigner, I think I'd have to go through certain hoops just to be so that where the place I was going to, they really knew that I'd been in the country well over the quarantine period.
Yeah, that's great, Simon. It's so good to have a good news story.
Exactly. Yes.
Things in the UK. It's not going away in the UK. It's not going away in the US. But South America, Africa's increasing. You know, it's a bit of a nightmare around the world. But we've got these glowing beacons of how things could have been with early proactive action, and that's exactly what Vietnam has done. So I'm just full of admiration for the Vietnamese.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yes, but they were brilliant.
Yeah, no, that's great. So you're planning on staying in Vietnam for another year or two, or what do you hope to do?
Probably another couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. No, fantastic lifestyle. Yeah. Yeah. Simon, that is just a fantastic update. We really appreciate it. People all around the world are going to be watching this with a great deal of, shall we say, jealousy.
We're still isolated.
Yeah.
As a country.
Well, you have to be because there's a pandemic in the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And this has been achieved without drugs, without vaccine, just basic community health, public health.
It'd be interesting to see what happens when they do get a vaccine, because obviously there's a season coming up at the end of the summer, and in the wet season.
I guess you get more diseases in general in the wet season. You get more dengue and more malaria and things like that.
Yeah, it's mainly it's the transition period where the weather doesn't really know what it's doing, and then a lot of people get sick.
Right. Okay. Yeah, but that happens every year. That's kind of routine almost.
Yeah.
No, that's great, Simon. Thank you very much. Anything else you want to tell us about Vietnam? I think we've covered the main things there. You know, the thing that's really struck me is this is not rocket science, is it? This is public health things that are written in the textbooks maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago. In fact, probably 100 years ago in the 1918-19 pandemic. 1918 pandemic, and Vietnam has simply implemented them, but done it in an organized, coordinated way. And as a result of that, the people are benefiting from that now. They're back at work. They can move around the country. Yeah. They can make a living, they can get their education, and it's basically back to normal within the country.
Yeah, it's a very level-headed approach. I mean, they didn't get fascinated with technology solving it. There was a lot of hard, traditional checking on people by walking around and talking to people. If someone was, that's how they did their tracking. Yeah. There's nothing fancy about it.
So, well, you've tested positive. Where have you been for the last day? Who did you see? Is that sort of basic human interaction tracking? Yeah. One thing I did forget to ask: has there been an app? Is there an app?
There was an app, but I've no idea what the uptake was. I mean, I was encouraged to use it as a foreigner.
Yeah.
But I do believe there was an app.
But it's obviously not pervasive, or you would know about it and your friends would be talking about it.
Yeah. So I can't really say on that.
Yeah, so it sounds like mostly old-fashioned legwork and going around talking to people.
I mean, 40% of the population are on Facebook.
Right.
There are a couple of other social network tools that were used effectively. There's one called Yalo, which is basically a Chinese Vietnamese WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And every day you'd get a bulletin about what was happening with who. So there was a lot of transparency about the 273 people.
So again, good levels of information means that
Yeah.
transparency means that the population wants to come along with you. This is a common enterprise. Everyone's in it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Transparency works. Yeah, you can't keep it. Well, yeah, I was quite surprised at that, but it was very successful. Obviously.
Yeah. That's great. So I look forward to all the jealous comments we're going to get on this video, Simon. Thank you very much.
Okay.
You've probably been working all day, have you? This is the end of a busy day.
Actually, not. No.
Oh, okay. That's good.
I had a massage before lunch.
Oh, okay.
Been trying out my new camera. I just went to the local market to take some pictures.
Okay.
I've got a full weekend of work.
Oh, okay. So you're working for the weekend. Okay. Thanks, Simon. Really appreciate your time. Yeah.
Thank you.
And we're grateful for you and for the people of Vietnam. And it's just a tremendous result. We're delighted. Yeah. Thanks.
Hey, thank you very much, John.
Thanks.